Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. And this is arguably one of the most important podcasts that we'll have with the one and only Mr. Derek Johnson for the critical time and season in which we find ourselves. And we'll be talking about all things law and orders, geopolitical, and the latest elephant in the room, and getting the truth and the clarity that we all need at this most important and impactful time. So if you're new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share, as it helps the channel grow and others to gain in the knowledge you're currently being afforded. If you're new to the podcast, then you will know about Derek Johnson, and he's one of our most appreciated and coveted guests on our podcast. He has been faithful to us from the very beginning of our time. He is a decorated Army veteran, patriot, singer, songwriter, country music artist, Christian, and he has a best-selling book, Midnight Rider Rides Again, Part 1, and now working on Part 2. And I am very honored, as always, to have the one and only Mr. Derek Johnson join us. How are you doing today, good sir?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm not as decorated as everybody else, but
Well enough, certainly, and we certainly salute and appreciate you accordingly. So, Derek, again, we're at the point you and I where we've been down this rabbit hole long enough where I can just get right to it and get to the real elephant in the room question that everybody wants to know, and it's really two questions in a couple of parts. A lot has been talked about in the last week since the alleged demise of the great Charlie Kirk, which we do love and support both him and his family. Let's not get that twisted. We support everything for which he stood from a faith and political standpoint. But much has been made about the discussion about it. Did it happen? Did it really not happen? You're closer to the situation than most. So I will start out with the most obvious question. To the best of your ability, please, as always, articulate to the audience, was he assassinated? Was he not? What was the reason for that event happening in the first place? And what do you see coming from that event leading to in the remainder of this year?
well, first and foremost, people need to stay focused on who's the commander here. It's not Charlie Kirk. It's President Donald John Trump, so wartime commander. I know it's not popular for Americans to know laws and orders. That's where the deep state psyoped everybody through the years. And Americans just got lazy, for lack of better words, as well, because I mean, we're in the greatest nation of all. And you do expect some in good ways, some in other ways, expect that freedom to always be there because the military protects that. But what I've been showing people is that they don't really listen to President Trump. They definitely don't read. They definitely don't study. And this was it's a multi-layered test in multiple facets. Um, so first things first, as long as the law shows we're in a continuity government, we're in a continuity government. President Trump invoked that December the 7th, 2020 with Executive Order 13961. Why would quote unquote Joe partially revoke that the last full 24-hour day of a presidency? Why not January the 20th, 2021 or everything in between? Instead, now they call President Trump a what? A dictator, fascist, all these other things. President Trump put a new continuity government order in place, executive order in March. But we're in a partial, means we're on the ladder of the end. But President Eisenhower established the continuity government in presidential emergency action documents. They go together. All right. That over here is draft classified. You can't Google it. All right. And then this expands the power of the president. This over here is your government. The military and government are separate by laws. So we don't have time to break all that down, as we know. All right. But when people go study that, that's your foundation to stand on. That's your bigger foundation. That's when you learn that, then you can go look at the intricacies. And if you get too far and you're like, I don't know where to go with it, come back to your foundation. Then go back. So it's hard to really think special operations if you're not special operations. But this whole thing was a special operation. Now, here's the other thing it teaches people who are on that foundation. What you've also learned through this, Patriots, is Native American chiefs, unless it was something where they were being ambushed personally, if it was some other kind of attack, Native American chiefs sat back. They weren't quick to respond. They sat back and observed and then calculated and then devised a strategy on what they were going to do next. They weren't quick to react. What everybody saw were quick reaction Americans. naturally so for the ones who don't have a clue what's going on lawfully. The ones who love President Trump don't know what's going on lawfully. The liberals who hate him still don't know what's going on lawfully. These two people are in the same category. So this was actually freaking epic. And I've tried for people out there not to smile because I want people to know the truth and what's going on lawfully. But it's hard not to smile because CK is a part of the special operation. And it's people are asking, well, is he alive? And all this. I say, quit worrying about that stuff. Why don't you focus on what you can know first? Absorb what you can know first. Absorb the special operations part first. Absorb what President Donald John Trump's doing first. Then you can come down here and seek to understand a little bit better. So as of 2 days ago, everybody, oh boy, my social media has gone berserk. The normies, it's like 2020 2.0 for me. It's like going viral all over again for me. All right, which is perfect though, because the ones who are going to know, who want to know, will read, study. But just a couple of days ago, we didn't have what we have right now. This is always the case with anything in life. But they just put up exactly what I said on my post way back a few days ago when I went live on the 16th. No, the 15th, excuse me. I was supposed to go live on the 14th and they blocked me, basically. I go live on the 15th. So we're talking 3 days, right? Going by. What did they put up on Charlie's page, on his main page, turning point, all this up? They put up, this is our turning point. I've been telling people over and over again, there has to be a turning point in every war. I always talk about the turning point of the Revolutionary War, Valley Forge. All right. There's a lot of turning points that you can look at. But in this war, this was the turning point. All right. The normies reacted the way they were supposed to, right? Emotions, feelings, shock, all. But what they didn't realize, the test that they just passed, is what's chattering right now with certain people out there in the higher levels. What they're now going to start showing people is we should see firing squads for what they did to Charlie Kirk. Well, guess what test everybody passed the other day? Nobody's talking about the gory scene they saw on TV, right? No one's talking about the blood and, the gush. Why? Yellowstone, Ozark, Breaking Bad, all these shows that people are watching have what? Desensitized them to gory stuff. Therefore, you need something that makes the mindsets flip out there for them to want to see punishment at this kind of level. Because treason in the military in the old days was automatic hanging, and now it's going to be a firing squad now that we have weapons of that. All right, that way it's quick, it's fast, and it's also visual. Why did President Trump bring out the firing squads? Idaho, South Carolina where I used theirs and another on a lower level prisoner. So all these things. Now, I show this, and I don't know the exact name of the soldier and all this, but there's a story that's been passed down in the military of a guy who was a foreign observer in Vietnam, and his job was to go in and locate the enemy. And then he would call in and give a location. Here it is. Well, he got in to the enemy encampment, but he realized there were so many of them that he was not going to get out. He would be seen. He would be detected. So what did he do? He had two options. He could become a prisoner of war, which still could have ended up torture, but also killing him. But what did he do? He did something heroic. He called in an airstrike to that location. They didn't find this out till later, until his remains were discovered. But he called in an airstrike to his location. It wiped him out, and it took out that whole enemy encampment. He sacrificed his life for all the other soldiers that could have potentially died coming in when they didn't hear from him and all these other things. All right. Charlie Kirk sacrificed his face, his name, his platform. It was a turning point. Look at all the normies needed to see it that way, because look who was in the streets. Look who's being fired right now. The only way you can fire people for a freedom of speech, no matter how atrocious it is, no matter how despicable it is, the only way you can do that is under a wartime order. And that is your restricting telecommunications that President Trump has already validated. He's validated via the 4 terms I'll talk about: occupied country, white flag of surrender, puppet government, and capitulation. Those are not government terms, ladies and gentlemen. President Trump has used those over the course of this time. Those are law of war manual. Puppet government and your occupied country territory are in the same chapter: military occupation. All right. When you hear military occupation, that means martial law and all other forms of a wartime commander run on our nation. So President Trump's been saying all those things. So when you tie all this stuff in, that's how you can't have one without the other. So it was a turning point, and then it sets up the finale. We have subpoenas in August, subpoenas in September, subpoenas coming up in October for Bill and Hillary. Just a few weeks ago, President Trump said what? He said exactly. He said, lawyer up, Democrats. Justice is coming. All right. At the same time, he said he posted all roads lead to Obama. Read truth if you want to see military tribunals. Well, military tribunals, ladies and gentlemen, will be where you see people tried for treason, which will lead to the death penalty. All right. So what they did, they put this quote unquote gory scene on TV. It was a tester. Melania just literally had a speech September the 4th about the importance of AI, and then President Trump retruthed it and talked about his beautiful wife, the First Lady, about AI. September the 9th, the day before, President Trump posted about the quick trial again. A month ago, at the same time about the Obama stuff, he said, I don't think people are ready for the quick trial. Well, what did they do? They tested people out. And they used a big name, they used a big face, a big image, but also it's a turning point another way because it's colleges, it's high schools, right? So all these things are taking place. And then they showed you what it's going to look like. People aren't going to be frantic when they actually see someone up there who did something bad. It's also going to flip a lot of the liberals. A lot of the liberals out there are going to be like, they did what? They did this and that. But I've always said it before, the only person who can exonerate President Trump is not a Republican, it's not a conservative, it's not a patriot, it's not even military. It's going to be the left, the liberals. All right, so someone's going to be a fall guy, someone's going to be a fall girl, someone's going to be telling all, spilling all, the old saying, don't give up the ship. Someone's going to give up the ship. If I'm going down, you're going down too. They're going to have all this. And I think that's how they use the EAS, because no one's going to believe it on a regular TV. No one's going to believe it on regular media. It's not going to be like that. I think that's when they use the EAS and flip everybody's phones and TVs, flip it. And then the only way out of it is for you to put your phone down, me to put my phone down, turn the TV off, walk outside, go fishing. But when that's all you got, and you can't flip the channel and every channel's the same, then you might as well probably sit there and listen. But that's why they say the end is not for everybody, because there's going to be some who may not want to see what they see. But the quick trial. And then also the other post that they put up, why? And I can break down the stuff that people saw that wasn't real in a minute. I don't want to talk too much in this segment, but with why is it important? We haven't even seen a viewing or a funeral. Why are they naming his wife the CEO of Turning Point this close? It's not that important. That's not important at all. All right, when someone would die, if they really died, everybody would have grace to go, hey, there won't be any post on this page for right now. There won't be any podcast right now. There's so much overproduction with this that it shows how easy it is to fool Americans. The old Mark Twain quote: it's easier to fool somebody than convince them they've been fooled. Right. So look at the overproduction. Most people I've sat around don't even want to talk about death. I'm okay with death. I'm okay talking about it, and this because it's coming. It's inevitable, right? For all of us. The Bible tells us that. But I know people who can't even just joke around about it. Why is a woman who's supposed to be a widow all of a sudden speaking within 2 days? All right, don't look anything like her. It's all AI. People failed that AI test as well. All right, and then Why is she showing a casket being put into a hearse in a garage with a 1930 something Packard sitting next to it and chairs on the wall? It's so overkill that people can't even see the overproduction. And that's the heartstrings. So it's showing people what they're still attached to: TV and phone. If it's not Fox, ON, Newsmax, then it ain't, you know what? If it's not so and so that they've always heard of, then it ain't, you know what? And that's the stuff that I've been trying to say, is that we can't sustain in the future like this. So they're also trapping people. I've said it too. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I do know how they're going to do it. They're just going to have to go, you can't say this. If you say this, your account's gone, right? Because we're under wartime orders. But there's so many on X with blue badges now. I believe they used Elon to trap everybody over there, and then they get their IP locations, their names, etc. You know, some people may not like that, but the only way to flip this whole equation is to show people you're not speaking on behalf of humanity. You're speaking on behalf of yourself and your personal feelings. And a lot of your personal feelings have done what? You've been duped your whole life. You've been told to think this way. You're not thinking for humanity. You're not thinking for others. You're not. But I like breaking down the visuals, though, if we can get to that and I'd show people. But
Sure. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. And like you said, there's a lot of segments here. So there's three questions that came to mind as I was listening to you share. I'm just going to take them one at a time so the audience can digest them, right? We can break them down. Q said a long time ago, this is the first thought I had as you were sharing today. Q said a long time ago, the shot heard around the world. Is this the shot heard around the world?
absolutely. Because of the target audience, right? And I was given my new orders today, and they were like, look, stay the course, right? You're always ahead because you are ahead. And it's not even about being right though. What I'm trying to get people to see is it's not about me. I'm trying to paint God, the military as a whole, then President Donald John Trump, and then keeping the oath. President Trump and Q also said, remember your oath. Remember your oath, veterans. You're going to serve again. All right. And it's a known fact with military veterans, we always say, hey, our oath didn't expire. It didn't expire. So if you say that, then why do you say that if you don't mean that, if you don't apply that and make it applicable, right? It's just, in all reality, everything we have on earth is man-made. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. It's a man-made oath, but it's still for humanity if you think of it. Like I wouldn't let you get hurt. I would jump in front of you to save you. All right. And I've only known you a little while, and I basically know you on screen in another manner, but it doesn't matter. Like that, the mentality is supposed to be, okay, if you're being hurt, then that may be for me to go, all right, I got to protect this guy because I can. If you couldn't protect yourself, or if someone out there couldn't. And we've seen heroes in the past who have lost their life for something like that. And that person lived their whole life. And that one person made that one little small act of valor and gone. Right. And so if people would understand, that's the mentality out there first. So the shot heard around the world, the people that was a target audience, they're seeing it the way they see it. Their disclosure is still coming. Right. This is the only way President Trump can be exonerated and also go down on Mount Rushmore, which he just reshared again the other day. A real grin on his face. All the things that make the dash so special, 45-47, it couldn't be special if it wasn't different from anything in the past. Not different economically wise. That's just a given. That's supposed to be a given, right? Our livelihood. What made it so different? It was the hijacking of the swamp way back here. And now it's the taking it back over by the good guys and going, you know what? Like President Trump, I'm a billionaire. I don't need your money. I'll wreck your system and make your system better. And I'll kick you all out while we're at it because you're not good people, right? So he said this not long ago. So when I asked him, he said, what do you love the most in life? He said, I love making deals. He said, you like scoring touchdowns? I like making deals. He said, that's just me. Maybe people think that's crazy, but I love that. Well, I love being the little guy, the veteran. They say it's not don't have much on his resume, and it's DD 214 and all these other things. Well, I love that because my brain knows what it knows and cannot know what it knows, and I love being able to go in with the tenacity and the capacity to not worry about the stupidity when I lay down at night or the ignorance when I lay down at night. All right. When I combat people, I'm trying to wake people up because sometimes you can shake them a little. Sometimes you can't. You can't save everybody, but you could try. And so I love that. And that's what this shot is it's there, it affects everybody in their own capacity, but even the ones who are still completely lost. I've heard patriots texting me yesterday. I don't think they're ever going to see it. Oh, yeah, they will. This is the turning point, and now we're leading to the finale. We cannot go into the golden age with whatever it's been in the past. We can't get to July 4th, 2026, like President Trump said will be, with it still looking like the past. So between here, you got your red October, and then moving forward, to get to July 4th, 2026.
Exactly. Perfectly said, Derek. So breaking this down into micro parts, second question is you brought up the EAS. As you were sharing, I was thinking about this and just bouncing it off of you as we normally do. There was a lot of talk in the past about Hillary. You know, we know it's not the real one now, but Hillary's arrest coming in October. I remember 7 years ago, Q said future proofs past. If you'll recall, Derek, I don't know how good your recall is, but I'm knowing you as I do, I think it's pretty good. You'll remember October of 2018, President Trump in his first term did a test of the emergency broadcast system. And I remember the job I was working at the time, it went everywhere, phones, tablets, computers, you name it. Well, that was a 7-year cycle. We know what 7 means biblically. So my question is it plausible or possible that the EAS and the arrests of the deep state optically, of course, at this point, they've already been dealt with in the past, might happen around this October timeframe because we're coming into that Kim Clements fall in the fall?
Well, we know that President Trump recently, so for the people out there who we took this beating the last whatever years, about Q being a conspiracy theory and this, that, and other. What I tell people though is that you can't have Q without laws and orders. Like you got to still know your laws and orders of the military because Q is a clearance. I know people with Q clearance. And then also you got to be careful who you follow because a lot of people think because they can read Q and what was given that you automatically become an Anon. The Anons were already established, the ones who put this out. And that's where a lot of people do get that confusion. I only say that for people who are out there trying to absorb this because it is a lot of information. But President Trump recently shared a photo on his True Social. His left hand, he's holding a Q plus, and it's big. It's not like some little bitty, you got to zoom in with a microscope or, No, it's a huge Q plus. He was asked in an interview way back, do you know anything about Q and Q plus? And he said, you'd be surprised. He never said no. He just said, you'd be surprised. So, now, the other thing I like to preference with this is because people will talk about game theory. And also, why are we playing a game on the American people? Well, why would President Trump be lying? It's not lying, ladies and gentlemen. You've already been lied to. You've already had your game theory played on you, but we got to do the game theory back. We had to do game theory back on the deep state. All right. So do what? Trap every one of them. You don't want to leave anything. I love an old coach that University of Alabama used to have, but he said torching the barn, killing the rats. Right. You can build a new barn. That's the way that's what that's saying. All right. So Q plus. President Trump put this up. And there's others he's posted, but this one's most recent, massive Q plus. So what I tell people is this: when you take that and then you go look at Q board, if you flip the Q board upside down and you read the last post to the first, it makes more sense. All right. And it brings you right back to October, like you just said. And all the people who call that a conspiracy and she just fainted and she was dehydrated, there's your normal thinkers. But they showed Hillary clearly with her hands behind her back, collapsing, being forced into a black van with people surrounding her.
Mhm.
All right. That was not a conspiracy. Now that ties into your knowing AI for the future, what is real and what was on live TV. See, if you didn't see it in the live like we all did at that moment, that very entity, then people now, oh, you doctored that up, you put that through a video thing, and da 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 da. See, that's the people over here. But how do you get to July 4th and President Trump and 250 be completely different? See, what I've been showing people is that he's 79, right? And by the time we get there, he'll be 80, which is cool.
Mhm.
But if you look at the timeline of a man, the Bible says if you live to be fourscore and whatever I forget the term, but my dad always says he's in borrowed time. He says, I'm in overtime. I'm past the fourth quarter. He'll be 83 in 2 days, right? Well, if you look at the average lifespan of a man, they still show on average at 78. Well, President Trump will be in his bonus round if that's the case. All right. Why wouldn't the Republican conservatives who don't know the laws and orders, they would want him to do what? Be able to live a glorified glory life, not having to deal with all this bull crap in a retirement because he would deserve it, right? If people apply that simple principle, that why would he fight this all the way up into his mid 80s, late 80s, 90s? People got to apply that. So this whole thing was put on a calendar, on a cylinder. And like you say, it's all biblical, first and foremost. It's all biblical. When people say numbers don't matter, well, why are you complaining about the economy in your bank account? Numbers matter, right? So when you apply that, I think it could. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not privy to that information. But it would make sense in order to do what? When you do that, then that's your disclosure. But then you have to do what? People have to be, they're going to be happy by July 4th. That's what he says. So, but you got to go through that moment of what? Maybe darkness for some of them because it's going to be a lot of stuff hitting them. And then they're going to realize the people who are around them trying to help them weren't trying to hurt them. People like me and you and different people. So, I mean, I don't make predictions, but the timeline makes sense when it comes to theory and also what President Trump's saying. He's the commander, he's the face, but there's generals back here doing this. And this was all pre-planned. The law show it was pre-planned. So it looks that way with Bill and Hillary being subpoenaed in October. And I always tell people it don't matter. It's not super secretive, but I'm literally about 2 miles from Jeff Sessions right now. And he was subpoenaed in August. Now, that's already happened for people. But for the average person, they think it just happened.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you, Derek. Very appreciative as always. Yep. So that kind of leads into my last question that segues from what we just discussed to, marry well together. So I'm going to show you a screenshot or screen share of something here. I just want to share with you real quickly and get your take on it here. So, there's a faction of society in our audience, you touched on it a moment ago, who has a mustard seed of faith, the Hebrews 11:1. They get that, right? They trust the plan, they trust Christ, and ultimately trust President Trump. Not always mutually exclusive, by the way, but the goal is to get them there. President Trump talked about quick trial, right? You just touched on it earlier about some of the other states where executions have happened. I believe you said South Carolina and some other ones. This came out, this article in Leading Report Next, that Rep. Randy Fines calling for a public firing squad for the entire World Sea of Tyler Robinson. So what I'm driving at is the way that economically he's bringing it down to the states to get us back to a constitutional republic optically, because like he said, we either have a republic or we don't. Are they doing the same thing in a geopolitical wartime fashion where they're bringing it down to the states to do the death penalty? Is this one of the ways that they're going to deploy the truth for the public to see that need to see the arrests, that need to see the executions, that need to see the justice that we've all been pining for and deserve? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's all special operations. That's why I show people the assassination being a deliberate creation. If you go back, first and foremost, President Trump is fulfilling what JFK was starting. All right, and people who've been reading and studying know this. It's no secret. April the 11th, 1962, JFK wrote a letter about the importance of guerrilla warfare being needed to put in our training and tactics of the military. Guerrilla warfare can work one of two ways. Good guys have it, good. Bad guys have it, bad. So therefore, you still need to have what? People who know how to identify these things, people like me. Now, I'm on a low level of it. There's so many who are above me, and massive teams that's the thing that I fight daily for, is the fact that I know a lot of the people behind the scenes that most people will never know, because most of them are still going to be in their positions because of their skill sets for the future. But there's so many things that people just don't know that goes around all the time around them. And President Trump, they drew the line in the sand November the 8th, 2016. Game on. It's game over. You're done. Deep state, you're about to be wiped out, demolished, and decimated. President Trump used the term decimated. That's a pretty heavy term. And so he had to start out lightly, right? Started going after the three-letter agencies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because those are the ones who weaponize against the people. And those are the ones that were working behind the scenes against people. And they kept a balance. You'll hear people say, well, why wouldn't we have seen this? Well, because they kept a balance of it. That's how they kept in power. That's how 83% of the black demographic have voted for Democrats since the Civil Rights Act, because they kept things in balance. They never tipped it over to where you could see that. And then people down here doing what you're really supposed to be doing, like the Declaration of Independence says, didn't know what to look for, didn't know what to study, didn't know how to uprise the correct way, but also the right way. And even if, worst case scenario, Marquis de Lafayette, one of our French founders, all right, said insurrection was one of the last means of defense of saving a nation. So a lot of Americans forgot that. So when you look at something like death, right, and then the death penalty, we should never root for it. I say this all the time. You know, it's kind of like right now, people would love this, Republicans and conservatives, they would love to use a loophole to skip a law for punishment versus knowing the law where you can prevent the loophole, where you can prevent the punishment, right? And it's like if people would listen to what they're saying. Now, I'm all about punishment, but we should have never got to this place in history. So they use this tactic of assassination with Charlie because he's young. He creates the social. I'm not the social. I'm showing you the special operations, the unconventional warfare, the irregular warfare that tie in with President Donald John Trump's laws and orders. They cannot be unseen, unread, and unknown once you go study them. But that takes people wanting to know that. CK was vital out in the social matters. Why are people arguing and getting mad? Even Republicans. President Trump says it all the time. Republicans are the worst. They always fight with each other. They're always arguing with each other, and they can never be on the same page. He says this over and over. He said I had to run on the Republican ticket because our views overall match that. But Republicans are always arguing over the littlest things. And you and I know it, especially in the other side, flat earth, round earth. Boy, some people ready to square off fist to fist over something we absolutely really can't prove. Right? Why does it matter that if you want to absolutely die hard believe that it's round, and so wants to die hard believe that it's flat, why can't you go, you know what? That's a cool thought. You know what? I'm going to think about it. I'm probably still going to believe the way I believe. But look at all the things that people argue and fight over in this nation that was never supposed to be put into government. Those things created politics. Government still over here. The economy still needs to run. The military still has to be funded and all these things, right? And people don't see the separation. So the little things like this, the assassination is a deliberate creation. It's in the Special Operations Command. And it was just put out again right before President Trump rolled down the escalator, a new one, right? And so all these things that people go study, that deliberate creation. Well, when the good guys are in control, you can use something like that to flip the whole puzzle. It shows people out there You saw all these Democrats and liberals with the purple hair, weird noses on their social media going, I've been wrong. You know, we're all different. We can have our difference of this and that and other. Violence is not, it's created that. Those people are the ones who are going to all of a sudden go back to, you know what? I believe in capital punishment when it comes to things like this. When you're trying to quell someone's voice, no matter what they're saying. Like all the people who attacked me this week, it's kind of humorous. I think it's humorous because they prove my point. They prove the special operation, and then they prove they don't even listen to Charlie Kirk. They don't listen to him. He's the one who said that disagreement makes things go forward. Disagreement is what makes things fun. Why are you so mad, bitter, angry that Charlie Kirk could be a special operation? He sacrificed his platform, his name, brand, image to build what? Look how many people he's done gotten over on this page since he quote unquote packed. Look at what it's created all over the world. Look at the people on social media. Look at the people. It shows people have more in common than they don't. And it shows people that, hey, at the end of the day, if you want to be purple haired, Buddhist, gay, if you sit in your household and you ain't hurting or harming somebody and don't expect the government to fund something, you don't expect children to be, processed through some facility and brainwashed into your thinking, let them get 18, 19 years old. And if they decide something that's so far-fetched, if they're not hurting or harming somebody, at the end of the day, they came to the same realization that you and I came to at our realization points. And we always learn in life. We never stop learning. You're not ever supposed to stop learning. And so many people are seeing that, and it's only going to lead to more. And President Trump said in the future, the schools, high schools, and colleges who don't teach our history, they will be defunded. So see, when you take money away and then you do things like this and you get people talking the right way again, then it's going to lead to a better future. And then people will be able to be disclosed. Oh, it's going to be disclosed that President Trump is 45-47. That's what makes him unique. That's what makes him different. That's going to set the history books for however long it goes, the earth. People are going to look back and go, man, what a tactic, what a strategy. And so, all this stuff, the quick trial, Yellowstone, Ozark were some of the glorious things I've seen on just a normal TV show. And so they showed all this thing. And if I may, really fast, just to break it down, you hear all the people out there saying, and this is why you got to learn, ladies and gentlemen, to stop listening to the noise, right? Even David Harris or Daniel, whatever his name is, Harris Jr. put out, oh, the shooter's back here behind. Distraction. They're getting people distracted, right? They're getting people still fed onto it, right? Then they got a guy on the front. Oh, look at his hand right there. His hand's just awkwardly landing on a post. Then they got the guy beside him. Oh, look at his arm right here. Ladies and gentlemen, look at what they showed you. Why? Why, of all things? So I was going to go live on the 14th. I post this out there. I'm going live. I'm going to break all this down for you. I go live on Facebook. Grayed out. It wouldn't let me go live. And they banned me for a day from going live over a post that I made in November 2024. And it was the dumbest post you could ever see in your life. All right. So I'm like, okay, that's a sign to me to go, be easy. Don't be too heavy, but show what you're supposed to show, but don't get too crazy. All right. So I'm like, okay. So I had to go about it a whole other way. I did a live on Instagram. It let me go live, but it didn't let me post it. It wouldn't let me save it. People saw it, but it wouldn't let me save it. So I had to go back the next day and it let me do it. It's still up. Why didn't they ban that? Why didn't they block that? Why are they allowing me to say what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? Because I know what I know, and I'm always ahead of everything. This quick trial, I've been ahead of all this because that's just what military does, and that's what they're getting people ready for. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong, but that's what this whole thing's about. So what people saw, why did mainstream media and in our phones instantly, why was it all over? And you know this too because you have social media. If people don't understand coding, they got all these systems so coded. When you post a photo, if you accidentally put a photo up of yourself without a top on, ladies, instantly it blocks and it won't let you do it. if you put something up gory, like a deer and whatever it is, and people say, well, sensitive content, click to view. It gives you a warning. All right. Nowhere for the first 2 or 3, 4 hours did they block out this. Bleh. Why? And then President Trump has done what, ladies and gentlemen? He's hammered CNN, PBS, NPR. He's been saying, I'm getting MSNBC. Now, who are they firing people from? MSNBC. But then you got to go back to what? I was saying it earlier, and I think I got sidetracked, but one of the emergency powers of a wartime president is restricting telecommunications. And President Trump showed you that he's a wartime president by another emergency power. He's posted about the Associated Press being banned from the appeals court from Mar-a-Lago and the White House. Why can't the Associated Press, ladies and gentlemen, go to the White House in Mar-a-Lago and report with the president? Oh, it's a wartime power only. Because that's in a liberal's mind, that's suppression of freedom of speech. All right, freedom of the press. It's a wartime order. It's a wartime power. And it's bipartisan because a bipartisan Congress put it in place in the War Powers Act on December the 20th, 2019 with Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. That's why people have to know the laws. President Trump can do that lawfully. Appeals court. That's 47 U.S. Code Section 606, which is called War Powers of the President. He can revoke, restrict. He can, whatever he wants to do with TV, radio, internet, broadcast. So there's that. So of all times, they let this gory scene slip through for the people. That was a tester. All right. Then the things people didn't pay attention to. They went straight to the sadness and, oh my gosh, and oh God, Charlie Kirk. The Republicans did that. The liberals, well, why didn't y'all praise so-and-so? And why didn't this person get praised? And why didn't this person get praised? And what? They start pulling people that they know who are big in their scene. All right. So that shows you right there, it's an operation. Because in reality, why is a guy who wasn't in the military being told, I'll see you in Valhalla? He wasn't in the military. That's a military slogan. I'll see you in Valhalla. It's on my memorial bracelet here for one of my people here. All right. It says, till Valhalla, brother. That's just a military slogan. Why is Air Force Two? Why didn't Billy Graham get this? Why didn't other big people get this? All right. They're showing you it's a military operation, ladies and gentlemen. That was your biggest validation. I gave the big one away first. But then you go back to the visuals. There's a spot right here on the shirt. It moves from here, collar to neck. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I came this close, and I don't know if they'll let me do it on Facebook, but I came this close to showing me cleaning a deer, skinning a deer. All right. I know that people, there's patriots out there. Oh, you kill deer. I love them. I eat them too. But, all right. And I make clean kill shots, first off. I've shot deer at 180 yards in the neck. All right. Bam. Gone. Sit down. Bye-bye. That's how quick it is. All right. You got to pay attention to what they showed you. He's sitting on a stool, ladies and gentlemen. He always does. He's not in some chair like I got, which you can't see, but I got arms here, and I'm sitting down in it. I can't. If I fell out of it, I would slump through the little crack here and still be in it. He's sitting on the stool with no arms. All right. They show you a bullet hole right here. It went from a mark on the shirt. You can clearly follow it. What I tell people to do is you take your phone, you pull the little thing down, and you do screen record. All right. Get it in your gallery. Then go to your gallery, open your gallery, and take the same video, push pause first, very key, and then take your finger like this and run it across real slow and video record that. And then you can watch all these little things. His nose is skinnier, all right? But then the force, it shows the shirt go back like this. This shirt wouldn't do that. If you get hit in the neck, your shirt's not going to move. That is the squib. That's your detonator, all right? It's just all AI, and it's also the people in person. They saw everything that they needed to see because it was quick. Down he went. They were all running. They were all ducking. So people, oh, it's there. I saw it. You didn't there. You didn't see it. You didn't see anything. Boom, ground. You didn't see a thing. All right. And so this right here, when you get shot in the neck, guess who just happens to know someone's shot in the neck? Me. But they didn't get shot in the jugular. All right, when you get hit in the jugular, like they showed all that, they showed the blood pouring out, that would have been a jugular shot, ladies and gentlemen. All right. He wouldn't have done this. It's Jaco also broke this down first before everybody, but he wouldn't have fallen into the shot. He would have. Now he wouldn't have stayed on a stool either. See, if he was in a chair with arms on it, he could have stayed there. But he wouldn't have stayed on a stool like that. All right. That's what people are not paying attention to. All right. And so he didn't do that. He did like he gave into it, and then he had his microphone. With a jugular, ladies and gentlemen, you're out of here. It's actually like dying in your sleep. You'll get hit so fast you won't know you're hit, and you'll bleed out. But you won't bleed out like that. It would have been with the heartbeat. Now, if his heartbeat would have been Russian, it'd have been like, it didn't do that. If you look on the screen, it's a steady flow. The other thing, it never went past his chest. Go back and watch, ladies and gentlemen. It never went past his chest. It never landed. It didn't splatter. It didn't stain a white shirt nowhere. No blood stain anywhere. So see, and then no blood on the neck, no blood anywhere, no blood here. Also, when you slow the video down, the blood, it didn't land anywhere, so how can it splatter this way? I've got splatters going that way definitively. How can it go that way, change direction in midair when it didn't even show it landing? Then when you get him, they showed him the one little clip going into the SUV. His left arm from here all the way up looks like Easter egg dye of maroon. Blood don't look like that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, but it just don't look like that. So it was all part of it. Now, for people asking, well, where is he and is he alive and all that good stuff? Of course, right? Because that's what they're showing you. That's fake. So if that's fake, and then like Erica, why is she all of a sudden speaking like she did? And all the cognitive dissonance out there on her looks. Okay, so someone challenged me and said, okay, well, why don't you take a photo of her with the same expression? I've done broken it down, but I found one of the same expression June 29th this year. All right. So if this death was unexpected, then how is it that all of a sudden she changes her eyebrows, the size and shape, the tint, her complexion went from darker to lighter. So all the women out there saying it's makeup, oh, it's makeup, you idiot, stupid. But so the darker makeup would actually show heavier makeup. Am I not right, ladies? I mean, why is she more rosier and darker in her photos from the most recent August 29th? Same looking person. So her first post on Instagram is January the 3rd, 2012. Her most recent before all this was August 29th. So 14 days before, 2 weeks before this quote unquote incident. She looks the same from January the 3rd, 2012, aging. Same eyebrows, same shape, same darkness, same complexion, same nose, same chin, same lips. And this death's supposed to be unexpected. But she changes her eyebrows, her tint, her complexion, her chin, her nose, her everything, her voice changes. This is people that we're talking about. But you want a lawyer to defend you in court, but you don't want to know a lawyer to know the law. I mean, this is what we're saying. You want if you're in a lineup somewhere, don't you want people to have paid attention? I mean, here's the thing. If you're white, you better hope JJ from Good Times is in there. Fred Sanford's in there, right? Because some of the people, they can't even tell. Oh, this is makeup. It's cosmetics and da-da-da. How dare you? She's sad and she's that. So ladies, if you're going to prepare for crying and you say, you know what, I'm not going to wear any makeup and mascara. I'm not going to wear as much makeup and mascara because I'm going to cry it off. Why is the girl shown September the 12th with the lighter makeup look different than the girl way back here who looks consistent from 2012 to heavy makeup on set with CK on June 29th. You can tell she's wearing heavy makeup in that one. Why all of a sudden would you just completely change your looks, completely change your voice unexpectedly?
All great questions. Not to mention the fact, Derek, thank you again. I'm not an expert marksman like you, but you could be in a position with all of your military and of course, hunting experience. The bullet that they used allegedly was pretty big, right? Wouldn't that go out the back of the spine, hit somebody else?
I meant to break that down too.
No,
well, I have some right here nearby me. I mean, I have a 30-06 and a 7mm Magnum. The bolt action rifle, ladies and gentlemen, is either a 243, a 270, a 30-06, a 7mm Magnum, 7 mag for short is what we call it. If that would have been a real, and they showed you, no one has any excuses. Everybody saw the same video. If that would have been a real bolt action bullet, it would have left a soft. That's why I tell people, go to Google, be brave, go to Google, type in 30-06 or that's 30.06, or do 7mm Magnum bullet hole on a deer. Go look. Also, while you're on Google, type in bolt action or high power rifle shot to the neck. Click on those sensitive images and see what it looked like. It would have been ugly. And they showed you blood and a bullet hole. So if they showed you that, then you would have been able to see a real exit wound. And it would, what they showed you, they showed that they said the shooter was in front to the left. So the bullet hole would have been here entering. It would have wiped out the whole spinal cord back here. He wouldn't have been sitting there like, he wouldn't have had anything to hold him up right there. It'd have been ugly. It'd been ugly, ugly. The other thing that you reminded me of, straight out the gate, it was, and you can go back, look, ladies and gentlemen, go back to the actual day of articles, look at the hour and the timestamp and the date of it. They were already telling people it was a 200-yard shot. How did they know it was 200 without a shooter and a location? And why did it end up being 175 to 200? That's not too much off compared to, it was 120 yards. 175 and 200 are right there. They said 175 to 200, but very straight out the gate, they said 200 yards. Charlie shot at 200 yards. They didn't have a shooter. They didn't have a location. None of that. So they tell people, I mean, everything's like a proclamation. Also, the next day, Eric Trump put up a challenge coin that we give each other in the military. All right. And it says mission accomplished. I mean, it's all strategic. It's all going to be planned out. And also, Charlie Kirk in 2019, he's holding his hands just like this in a photo, official photo. Yeah. And if you flip that over, ladies and gentlemen, it's your tip of the spear. It's your special operations, just like this, Special Operations Command. All right. You flip it upside down. It's just a hand formation. President Trump, in every meeting President Trump's in, tip of the spear. I've heard people say, I'm just going to address this while we can. I've heard people say, well, that's a relaxing way. We teach that. That's a relaxing. This is not relaxing. This is relaxing. This is relaxing. To have this like in your lap like this. This is not relaxing, ladies and gentlemen. This takes your thought. This is like you scratching your own back. It don't feel as good as someone else does it, right? Because your brain, they say everything above your elbows, right? It don't feel the same because your brain is trying to command what? It's right here next to the same command center. This, go back, look at the inauguration. Eric Trump awkwardly standing there with his hands up like this right here. Because President Trump couldn't do it because he was too busy doing this. And he was too busy doing a speech. So they're doing what? We're still in an operation.
Exactly. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Derek. Just a couple of quick observations before we close and then with you. I had this exact same conversation a week ago with a good friend on our podcast. He have him as a regular like yourself. And I posed the notion to him that this operation was actually used to bring people together. Now, of course, on one level, it looks like division, but I think ultimately it is bringing more people together. You touched on it. A lot of people who subscribed or call themselves liberals or to the left leaning, whatever, have abandoned the party and said this is too much. Or even your older Democrats, 50s, 60s, who are about known mostly for fairness, compassion, equality. Even a lot of them are saying, this is enough's enough. Look at what happened in London days later. You had so many people coming to know the Lord Jesus. You're having revivals around the world. You're having nations stand up for sovereignty. More importantly, for Christ. Those things have happened, I believe, as the direct result of this event, incident, operation, however you want to deem it. Also, it's interesting to note, Derek, that speaking of Arabica, Kirk, whichever one that is, has just been announced as on True Social. You'll see it, the CEO of Turning Point. Interestingly enough, that's happening today in a week in the aftermath. So all these things are transpiring as a result of that. So as we typically do, Derek, last thoughts for the audience, and where can people find your true work?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Look at that. I mean, why would you name someone a CEO when to them the dude's not even in the ground yet? I mean, why is that important? Why is that priority? Why is that important? There's jokes out there that you got people who love dark humor, and they'll tell a joke and they'll go, too soon, right? Well, that would be too soon if this was real, right? But again, like I tell people, man, it's like I want people to be smarter. I want people to know what President Donald John Trump did on his, because if it were me there, then I want people to know the same thing. I'd want someone to listen to someone down here who's already exonerated him. He wouldn't even need exoneration on a bigger level if people would read and study and comprehend what's in current laws and orders invoked that outline the 45-47, which is a strategic and special operation. All right, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, on purpose, clandestine, covert, until they want you to know it. But if you know someone like me, you can already know it. All right, and then it shows all the executive orders, national emergencies, how they tie in, everything that President Donald John Trump has done. It's not about me. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. But it's about getting things right and then showing everything in everybody's position. And that's why President Trump says all the time, we got to protect IQ, we got to protect smart people. But he also, I'll leave people with this. I got to see his best friend speak. And a lot of people don't know him. Some people do, but I was at Mar-a-Lago, and he said, I'm the only one who has the honor and the privilege to still call him Donnie. And how cool will that be to be sitting with the supreme commander of the world and still get to call him by his slang name? But he says there's one thing about my friend that people still underestimate or don't apply. He's like, there's two things, but it all goes together. One, when he looks like he's about to lose, you don't know my friend Donnie. He said he'll come roaring back. He's always calculated. Everything's strategic. And then he said two. And he said, I give this to you and do what you will with it. President Trump loves fighters. He said, it don't matter how you're in the ring, but if you're fighting for America, you're fighting for the world, you're fighting for humanity, you're fighting for the right reasons, get in the ring, put your fist up and fight. He has more respect for fighters than he does the people on the outside of the ring yelling, da-da-da-da, cheering and all this other stuff. And I'll never forget one of the first bits of negative publicity that I ever received, and it wasn't bad. It's just that I don't understand why people just don't want to know simple facts. But the first bit of advice I got, someone sent me a photo one time, and it was Babe Ruth's quote, and it said the loudest boos come from the cheapest seats. All right. So, it's all about getting in the ring, gloves on or gloves off, doesn't matter, and fighting. And I see that a lot of people are starting to. I got a message last night, someone saying, man, I'm guilty. I'm one who's been this, and this, but I finally started reading and studying, and holy crap. So all of the naysaying and all the hatred, all the ridicule, the mockery, it's always worth it because like my grandfather did have dark humor. And he'll be gone. He'll be gone Sunday. 20 years. It's hard for me to believe, but he's the one who said, "Well, they gonna die too." All right, and so God's in control, and this too shall pass. You know, if you're staying the course, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing for God and humanity. The Psalms 91 tells you thousands can fall at your left and your right. You're not going to be harmed. You're not going to be touched, and they don't matter anyway. So they did, but they don't if they choose the wrong path.
Indeed. Yeah, Psalm 91:7 is one of my favorites. Very good, Derek. And again, where can people find? We'll leave the links in the description, but where can people find your work, please?
Yeah, the best thing is just go to my link tree because there's just so many ways that people, misspell things, and maybe some people accidentally type one extra T or L like the enemy does out there. So I go to my link tree, which is LANKTR period EE a backslash 1776 Nation, and that pulls up all my links out there for everybody, my official. And then once you find like my blue badge, one of those pages on that link, then you'll see on the blue badge verification, which means that they, have your information on their side. I validate my other pages on there that don't have the blue checks. So
Absolutely. Yeah, we will make sure to direct that as we always do so people can find your work accurately. We appreciate it. Derek Johnson, thank you for all you do. We really appreciate you illuminating the path of truth with critical thinking and good discernment so that our audience can get the clarity that they need and deserve at this critical time in the climax of the movie. Appreciate you being here. Look forward to seeing you again, hopefully next month. And thanks again. Have a blessed rest of your day.
thank you.